What's up, everybody? Hello, welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And this is episode 85 of the Hustling Sideways podcast.
No way. How do you know that?
Because we just looked it up 30 seconds ago.
Well, behind the scenes, we never know, and then we look it up.
Speaking of behind the scenes, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I rushed around to kind of get everything set up today because this week my parents were out of town, so I was watching their house.
Oh, so you had a big party?
No, I wish it was something cooler than that.
Dude, you could make it up. Just be like, I had a bunch of people.
I wish it was cooler than that. It's way lamer than that. It was, I found my old PlayStation 1 that is right here.
Oh, right there. Oh,
yes.
My gosh.
Hooked it up in here.
We will get your take on this, by the way, Abby.
And I wasted way too much time today. Do you remember Cool Borders 3?
I loved Cool Borders 3. Oh my gosh. What are we doing after this?
It's literally right here, yeah.
That and Need for Speed was my...
I don't have Need for Speed. I've been looking for it.
And then, Crash Bandicoot.
I have like a couple Crash Bandicoot ones. Like I found a box at my parents' house that had like 50 games.
Shout out to your parents.
So like...
That's amazing.
Like, my weekend
it's booked. You're good now. You got plans.
And like I don't get to play, like I have not played my actual like video games that I have in the house for like the last few years.
What better time?
I've been so busy.
It's 80 degrees and sunny. I mean, stay in and play PlayStation.
Yeah, right.
This is like Alan's reverting back to being 15 and not leaving the house.
Well, I immediately was like 15 again when I was like sitting here like no, one more, then I'll like set things up.
You know, it'd be even cooler to do that with a guest.
Yeah, I guess it would have been good.
Segue of the century.
Speaking of guests.
We have a guest. And now we should preface this. So if you've noticed, we've had some students on, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Alan and I did the Brewed Ideas Challenge back in April. And we were like, these students...
we didn't take it. We just hosted it.
I said we did it. We hosted it? Yeah. We didn't pitch. We just, we're not that cool. Trust me. You'll find out who the cool one here is in a second. But we thought it was amazing that all these students had incredible, passionate ideas. And it was a very natural fit to come on the show and talk about it. And so we are excited to do that. So I'm going to go on my iPhone notes because I forgot what I wrote down. So we have Abby Crocker. Abby is about to be a senior at the University of Marquette. And she is the founder of Tailored Remedy. So we are so excited. Let's welcome Abby to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You would think that we would have an applause button by 86 episodes.
No, this is a shtick. It's a shtick. We got to stick with it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, and you're here. You're in person.
I know. It feels nice to be in person.
No
Thank
doubt.
you so much for having me.
We've been doing a ton of virtual podcasts, so it actually was like the first time in a while that we were like, oh, we've got some.
So we're like, what do we do with our hands? There's a lot.
So welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from originally, and kind of like life leading up to Marquette. How about that?
Definitely. So I'm actually from a little bit north of Boston, Mass, which was a great place to grow up, but like every other 18-year-old, I was like, I want to move as far away as possible, have a whole new experience. I'll do it all on my own. Got super homesick right away as soon as I got to college, of course, but Marquette is very welcoming. Kind of backing up a little bit, when I was 18, I got my CNA license, which is Certified Nursing Assistant. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of thrown into work in long-term care facilities right at the height of COVID and long-term care facilities. Remember when it kind of was bouncing back and forth from all different facilities. I got my first job in March 2021. When I was in high school, I would go to community college. Mm-hmm. I got there at 5:30 at night, and I would stay there till 9:30 at night. Mm-hmm. 3 days a week, just trying to get my license very quickly.
On top of high school.
Yeah, on top of high school. Yeah. So that was very hard. But then when I started getting drained out from that a little bit, I switched over to home health aid. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was going to go to Marquette to become a doctor until I realized that I need to go to school for more than 4 years to become a doctor.
Sure. I was going to say that's a bit more schooling.
Yeah. So then I started picking up business classes and then branched my ideas from kind of the problems I saw in long-term care facilities and then the sudden business knowledge I had from that 3 credits I rubbed together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I started coming up with the idea for Tailored Remedy, which is my company. And from there, it's been great. But that's pretty much my background.
Yeah. What was the interest in healthcare? Did that start at a young age, or how did that come to you generally?
Honestly, I don't really know. It just kind of when you're a freshman in high school and people are like, what do you want to be? You can't say, I don't know, an astronaut anymore. So
I mean, you can.
Oh yeah, but my parents didn't really love that one anymore.
Sure.
They're like, okay, but what are you going to college for?
Yeah, imagine if you became an astronaut.
That would have been cool.
Like,
that would have been
in your
crazy.
face, parents.
Yeah.
Still
I
a
wish.
lot of time.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of time. Maybe if
time.
this doesn't fizzle out the way I want, I'll become an astronaut.
And then we'll have you back on. We'll talk about
Yeah,
NASA,
that'd be pretty cool.
Space. It'd be great. That's fun.
Yeah. But nobody in my family is in healthcare. My mom's actually from Ireland, and my dad grew up. He's in sales. He grew up in Boston. My sister's a photographer, and my other sister does like advertising, communications.
Okay.
So just really not healthcare, but
yeah,
I just really liked science classes.
Yeah.
Wasn't very good at English. It was kind of just the path I went towards.
That's great. That's a good reason to pick something. Where you're like, that class kind of sucks. So I'm just gonna roll.
Yeah,
with this.
exactly.
That was part of my like class picking was because I was like, I am terrible at math.
Oh.
I know I'm bad at math. Like it is
Yes.
even still in my like Instagram bio, like bad at math.
I literally, like as of 2 nights ago, have nightmares about geometry.
Oh.
It's there, and it like in my subconscious is like it'll freak out. I'll have a dream where I'll go in and I'm not prepared and there's a test, and it's always the same class, same dude, Mr. Zaidema, who I hated.
High school teacher?
Yes, he gave me 30 detentions when I was in high school. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, I'd probably deserve 20 of them, but 10 of them.
But 10 of those, you had a problem.
But I'll go in, and I always like to say geography can kiss my Ingleside side because I think it's kind of
Good joke.
It's
good
Were you
joke.
good at math?
I was good at math to an
you
extent.
Yeah, as much as you could be.
As much
Geometry
as
was
I
just
could be.
different.
Geometry, I did very, very. That was the one class I did very bad in.
That was everyone's one class. I don't know any people in my life, and if you're out there, say something that were good at geometry.
I don't think I was good at it. I can play pool, and there's angles involved in that. You know what I mean? Like I can shoot pool. That's my. But like, I also had a high school geometry teacher that, a little questionable. Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Questionable.
Yes. That's how I learned how to play bar dice. Anyway.
Oh, fantastic! Your high school geometry teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It
was a study day. It was a rain day. Yeah, there is a lot to unpack there.
Great.
Anyway, but back to Tailored Remedy. So you came up with this idea and being firsthand in healthcare facilities and things like that. So what was kind of the problem you were identifying with people that you were like, there's something that you can develop something here that could be possibly helpful here? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I guess you would think when you're like 18 and they throw you into that setting that they would kind of cushion you a little bit, but that definitely was not the case.
Sure.
Which was very rough, but then I got to see it for what it was. There was no kind of hiding anything. And I don't know if everyone else experiences this, but when I go into a job for the first time, I can see all the problems right away. Like that's where I can see all the problems. But once you get like a month, 2 months in, it kind of just starts to blend like every single day. Like just
you're like, that's
going
how
through
it
the
kind
day.
of works here.
This is the story with this.
Yeah, and then you kind of forget like how to identify those things. So right at the beginning was when I had so many. I think there were probably close to 60 beds in the facility. So I would jump around from like acute care, long-term living, just wherever they needed me because, I wasn't going to say no.
Right.
They just told me where to go and I was like, all right, whatever. Yeah. But I would be really close to the patients because when you're a nurse or a CNA, you're like really getting that one-on-one experience with them. Like your job is to make them comfortable, to chat with them. Right. Tailored to their needs, no pun intended.
Yeah. To their remedies.
Yeah. Find the remedies. Yeah. But I remember that like I had so many patients that had dementia that I would work very closely with. And I would work probably 40, 60 hours a week. And then one day I would have like patients that would act completely different than like what they always do. And I would try to express that to the doctors, but the doctors came in like once every other day, went through their appointments very quick.
They're just like going through the motions.
Yeah, going through the motions. Yeah, exactly. And I remember trying to tell them like, oh no, this patient is acting off. Like he or she doesn't act like that. Like they're usually super sweet and they're like, oh no, like they just have dementia. I'm like, no, I see them every single day, so many hours when they have dementia. Like this one's different. And 100% of the time their medications were interacting.
Okay.
And it's just so overlooked because they're moving so quickly that no one's taking like a second to step back. And the family members, they're super frustrated. This is definitely something that like a lot of people can connect to because like you're just moving quickly. Like, so many people are on different medications. Big pharma is not a secret here.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, people are on way over medicated. They're not getting clear access to healthcare information. And I remember one story that like really showed clarity was when I was a home health aide. So started getting really tired of the long-term care facilities. I mean, yeah, it was a lot. I mean, at that time we had like those duck masks, the shield, the gowns.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You couldn't breathe. Yeah, it made you like, oh yeah, exactly. It made you feel like you're going to pass out all the time. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. So my parents moved to Cape Cod. Mm-hmm. So I started doing home health aide there because that was just way more relaxed. And I mean, you just sit and like with the patient, you guys would go outside and read a book together. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
But there were times that were definitely bad. And I remember I had one Parkinson's patient and we were sitting at her dining room table and she spread out all of her medications and she had been on like 10, 15 different medications. And we spent over 4 hours trying to organize them. And I'm not even milking that number. Like, it was so long, comparing like all the little colors, the little numbers on them to try to figure out what they were, why she was taking them. And it was a total nightmare. And then I told her, I was like, or I asked her, I said, well, didn't your doctor give you some sort of guidance? Like, this is not something you should be worrying about. It's 8 p.m. Like, we can't call the doctor's office. You have no clue what we're taking. We're trying to put them in those, those plastic containers, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
The organizers.
Yeah, exactly. So we were trying to put it in that. And I was sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I'm so tired. This is the end of my 12-hour shift. Like, I just want to help her, but I don't know. Like, I'm not.
Right.
I don't know how to,
and like, you can't milk it or can't fake it because like a mistake could be real serious.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well,
which is probably why you couldn't feel like you could walk away from that.
Exactly.
Like, this is going to go awry really badly.
Yeah, and of course the only information she had is that she couldn't take one medication. If she's taking a handful of the other, it'd have horrible side effects. It's like, oh, no. So definitely, I couldn't walk away from that. I remember I was supposed to get off my shift early that day, and I called the facility. I said, I can't. Like, I need a helper. Like, she's super frustrated. And then that's when I started to see, like, clarity that nobody's solving these problems. Like, this is crazy. This lady shouldn't be worrying about this. Like, it's total nightmare. She should not worry about this. She should just worry about being healthy, going day to day, not the complex medications that are just all over her table. And then I started doing some research, and I figured out that 190 million people in the U.S. are actively taking at least one medication.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, within that number, 1 in 4 take 5 or more medications at once, which breaks down to 47.5 million people actively taking at least 5 medications, which is crazy. And then, like, again, going back to long-term care facilities, this would happen so much that people were just over-medicated.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to take them off any medications. Like, once they were on so many that multiple were interacting, they couldn't take them off because there'd be harmful side effects. They couldn't keep them on because there'd be harmful side effects.
So either way, they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, exactly. And the family members were just sitting there like, why wouldn't you have told me that, like, you put them or took them off all of these medications? Like, I would have wanted to research it a little bit more. And it just, there's no solution to those problems.
Yeah, it feels like a teeter-totter. Like, too
Yeah.
much of this, and then you're thrown off one way, too much of that, and that doesn't balance you out either.
Exactly.
And I have to imagine a large amount of those folks are elderly or like above the age of 60. Like can qualify as senior citizens, which makes it even worse because like they can't figure out. Like, all these folks don't know what they're taking. They're listening to a doctor. And, that's brutal. That's like a really striking stat.
And one misconception is that people have dementia that are in these facilities. Like, it's a lot of times it's dementia, which isn't wrong. But there are people that are, like, in their 50s, 60s that are on all these medications as well. Like, in acute care and places like that, they might have gotten into a car accident. And a lot of times they're there because they were way over-medicated. They can't get off these medications. And it's just a ripple effect. They can't get out of this cycle.
Sure. So that identifies obviously where tailored remedy comes in.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's next?
So kind of give us the overview of kind of how it works, or what the thought process is behind it, and what it's kind of designed to do.
Yeah, so Tailored Remedy democratizes medical information. So through our AI platform, this complicated medical information is presented in a clear and accessible manner. This empowers patients to really take that active role, which we kind of hit on, but just to have patients take healthcare back into their own hands and not have them take everything that's handed to them as well. And just be able to go into that doctor's appointment and talk to your doctor and have that educational conversation, because someone shouldn't need a medical background to understand what a doctor is saying or any sort of medical professional, which is really frustrating. It's just all that medical jargon is just so complicated. So through our AI platform, it takes information from the FDA, then medical leaflet packets, like those packets you get in a prescription when you get prescribed something. You know, those things that absolutely nobody reads.
I was going to say nobody.
It's like the fine print of it.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but no way I've ever read them.
I've agreed.
Well, I mean, think about it. That's what it is on like a health scale, right?
Yeah.
It's like, people are just like, yep, this is what the doctor gave me, and I'm taking that.
Yes, exactly. And you're not going to stand in line at a pharmacy when 4 people have their arms crossed behind you and they're like, do you have any questions about this medication? You're like,
let me ask all 30 of them.
It's like, no, I guess not. So there's that side of things, but there's also a very personalization part of it. So you go ahead and upload a healthcare survey. So say if I had a pacemaker and I was on multiple different medications and I'm out in the yard doing some yard work and I have some sort of allergic reaction, I want to take an antihistamine. That's a huge no-no, which someone wouldn't think. So instead of going and Googling, can I take an antihistamine, you can say that on the chatbot, and it's taking the information from, like, reliable sources, like, from what they would have given you, but comparing that with medications and other health conditions you might have to spit out a response. And it's not to... Our software is not focused on replacing, but instead enhancing the human expertise that is essential for quality healthcare. So it's taking the information that you should have gotten in the first place and taking that, breaking it down to a real natural language so you can go back and forth and have that conversation with the chatbot.
Sure.
And it's saying, okay, well, this is a huge no-no. Like going back to that example, maybe you should call your doctor before you go ahead and do that.
Okay.
But if something on like a lower scale and just getting quick questions, it'll flag it if it's real necessity to go ahead and talk to your doctor about that.
Okay.
I'm curious, like, the healthcare world is so wildly complicated. And, like, did you feel a sense of being overwhelmed when you even tried to tackle this type of problem? Or did you know where to start? Of, like, I know the issue, here it is. Or was it like, holy crap, this is a lot of stuff? Yeah,
I definitely did not mean to create Tailored Remedy, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, I wanted to solve these problems. I remember this class we had through Marquette. I forget what it was. It was like Intro to Entrepreneurship. This was the first class that I took after thinking I was going to become a doctor. It wasn't
geometry. I think
no, it wasn't. No math classes. Yeah, that was another part. If I didn't go pre-med, no math classes anymore. It was great. But we had to come up with like a business plan. And I remember trying to think of things I could do. But I was trying to take that easier route. And I remember I tried to like create a company, or it was like, I had an idea to create like a printer that you could like put in your backpack. And then I remember talking to someone that was more technical than I am. And they're like, no, you can't do that.
Sure.
And then, so that just basically scratched that class. Like I could have done something better, but I wasn't really
until
focused.
Somebody comes out and creates it. And then,
and I'm like, hey, I had that. You guys heard it here now. I had that idea first.
Episode 85, check it.
But then I went into this next class and it was called MU Flight School. So the professor was John Peterson, which was a professor for my last class, and he was great, and he's created companies. So, and this was obviously another class that I had to take for my entrepreneurship minor. And I was like, okay, I can just take this right now, get it over with. And I sat there on the first day of school, and he was like, okay, you guys are going to create a company and actually start to launch it. And then we're going to have a competition at the end, and first place is going to get $5,000. And I'm sitting looking at the table, I'm like, what?
Yeah, immediately perk
Someone
up.
say 5K.
Yeah, I'm like, what was that number?
That's a good reaction to have. I would
Yeah.
valid reaction.
Yeah. And then that's when I started to be like, okay, well, this is a little bit more serious. This is something I'm going to actually focus on. I mean, I wish I would have focused on this earlier, but I just wasn't thinking. I was having fun. I wasn't really thinking, going through my classes. So then I really started focusing on, okay, how can I solve these problems? And people being over-medicated was one of them. So that's kind of where I started. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the name of it back then. I remember I looked it up the other day and was like, that's weird.
Oh, like an original name for the
yeah, like
before?
The company was totally different. Like it kept changing as time went on. I mean, it worked out for the better, but I remember just hearing people's stories about like how people were having interactions with medications. And then one of my other mentors, he actually was horseback riding and he fell off the horse when he passed out.
Okay.
And then that's kind of when I started thinking of ways that, okay, how could he use something like this?
Sure.
How could he go on and use something like this?
Because that's another situation where they're just going to be like, take X painkiller.
Exactly. And he's just taking whatever they give him, and he was passing out and had no clue his medications interacting.
Yeah.
Again, his doctors didn't give him any sort of guidance or way to look it up.
And that's also like a fast track to setting up addictions. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Which was crazy. Luckily, he could question it. Like,
right.
he was a type of person to be like, all right, hold up, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But so many people don't know to do that, especially if they have dementia or something. Like,
if
they don't have family, then no one's going to look at that.
Right.
So then Tailored Remedy started kind of taking its roots. I ended up getting third place in that competition and winning some grant money, which was nice. So I could pay for those subscription fees, of course, which is funny because this is SaaS-based, and I complain so much about subscription fees because I never think to cancel them, which I guess will benefit me in the future with this.
Cut to new sponsor, Rocket Money. No, I don't. I do recommend it, though.
Exactly. And then, so Patrick Monahan, who is the director of the 707 Hub, or I'm not sure if he's the director exactly, but I went to him with some questions because I was stuck, and I was trying to work through, I mean, I love to network. I love to talk to anybody that is sent my way to just chat. And so I ended up going to the 707 Hub, which was the first time I was in there. And I remember trying to explain my idea to Patrick, and he was like, I think I can understand what you're getting at, but I don't know. So I had to like write it down for him because I get in this like space where my head is just jambled. Like I can think of a billion different ideas, and I try to talk and it doesn't make any sense. And I think it's making sense, but instead it's just like a huge, I don't even know.
Totally guilty of the same thing. that is like total entrepreneurial mindset.
I think that's a good point, because like if you're not thinking that way, like nothing's gonna happen. Like have the ideas, getting them written down and explain to someone's the important part, which you did. But there's nothing wrong with boom, 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 like everything's
that whole train of thought that happens.
Excited about it.
Exactly.
It's gonna have this, and it's gonna have this feature, and
it just means you're pumped.
So I went home and I actually did like a bunch of those brain maps.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Because I like played around with it on Canva, and then I started writing it down, and then just put it all over my wall. Remember, my friends would come over and be like, "Are you okay?
What's going on?
Is this your brain right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course it is."
Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah. And they just kind of look at me.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's gonna.
We don't know that yet.
It's gonna help healthcare, and then they're just like, we just want to go out. What is going on?
Exactly.
Get a beer and then head out.
Yeah. And of course, I was asking Patrick Monahan for help because I was thinking of this grant money, and I wanted it. I wanted to win.
Yeah.
But of course, I went to him like 3 days before the competition because I was putting it off so long, and I don't know, when I was just stuck, when I was in that spot, I don't know why I didn't just go and ask people for help. Like, that's definitely something that I learned, that just talk to people, like have a conversation, and just, so many people are like, oh, I can't tell my idea. But I don't understand how they get any further, because
I think it's important.
At some point, you have to just tell them and be like, well, I trust you guys to not go run off with it.
Exactly.
I think it's great that you had like a lesson learned from that.
Whenever I talk to someone, I always say like full transparency, like I'm going to tell you everything as it is, and then they either say, oh, I have some background in that, or maybe you should talk to this person.
Exactly.
Right.
And then coming from a student standpoint, it's way nicer because they give you all of those resources. Like,
no doubt.
Patrick Monahan, he would connect me with like Marquette Law, and then next I have a pro bono legal team, which who knew that existed.
That's an amazing resource to have. And did you have a mentor that you got paired with too in the hub?
I worked with Patrick Monahan the most.
Yeah. Awesome. He's a good mentor.
I know, he's great. Yeah. So he would help me a lot, and then again, I got into this like rut in like December, like right after this competition, because I was having a hard time believing that like a student could take this and go somewhere with it.
Sure.
So I then went home, actually. It was break, so I went home. I wasn't doing, like, I wanted to do more stuff for it, but I was like, what now? I don't have a business background.
Right.
I don't know what B2B means. Like,
yeah.
It was that
burger
simple.
to burger.
Yeah, I know, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So I didn't know what these things were. And I was just frustrated, but I didn't realize how many people would just like hold my hand along the way and just help me and be like, not look at me like I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And Patrick Monahan, he was also biomedical sciences, which is my major at Marquette.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he understood, and obviously he's in the entrepreneurship program now,
right,
running that at the 707 hub. So he saw where I was coming from and knew that I was making that like transition and recommending classes I could take. And I also was working with someone very closely named Tom Avery, who just like had a good passion with this. And that's honestly the best people to talk to, who are like passionate about what you're doing and just bounce ideas back and forth.
Yeah. Well, the second you see somebody that it clicks to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, this is what the problem is how we're solving it, or what you could do to do it. Like then they're locked in too, right? To your other point though about saying like, well, how does just a student turn this in? Like that is, I think, a disconnect that a lot of people don't understand, is that you thought you needed like a board of directors or like 7 or 10 people, just bodies there to be like, okay, this is the company. Like it needs to look more official than just, hey, I have this idea, right?
Exactly.
But it really just does take an idea and the right people to hear it and to keep the ball rolling on it, for sure.
Yeah, I know. That's really how it's been, just keeping the ball rolling to see where... I mean, I would have never thought I would have been at the point I am now. If you talked to me, like if I was talking to myself back in September, I would have been like, you're crazy, get out of here.
That's great.
Yeah, you've got the brain maps on the wall.
I know, And Patrick Monahan, he's definitely been a mentor because he really pushed me to always take that extra step.
Yeah.
Like I remember sitting at home in December, just so tired. I mean, I put everything into the competition in December, right before I left for break. And then he asked me if I wanted to represent Marquette in the Big East Startup Challenge. And I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of work. Like,
it's another competition.
Like it's in 2 weeks' time. And he was like, well, I'll work very closely with you. Like, I'll help you get to that point you need to be at to compete it. And it's all online. So it's not like I need to
travel for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that, which came around very quickly. And I knew that I wasn't going to be at a point where a lot of the other schools, I mean, one person is representing each of the colleges they go to.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's 11 schools in the Big East.
I think so.
Yeah, congratulations. No pressure.
Whole
school
I know.
behind you.
But it was really good because then Marquette started publishing things about me, and like, I mean, it would be like stuff that the Entrepreneurship Hub, the 707 Hub would help me with, and just really get me out there and be like, hey, like, she's representing Marquette. And then the biomedical sciences, the health sciences started reposting that.
Nice. Yeah.
And then people would come up to me and just be like, oh, can I hear some more about this?
Yeah.
And then again, you're bouncing off ideas and then they're connecting with people.
You never know. Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it works. And that's why I love doing the podcasts like these, because you never know where it will lead to.
Totally.
Like,
for sure.
it never is harmful in any sorts. I encourage anyone to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
But then after the Big E Startup Challenge, I was like, I need to focus on school. Like, this is a lot. And then, of course, Patrick Monahan was like, oh, well, I think you should compete in the Brewed Ideas Challenge.
Right.
I was like, no, I can't do that. There's
done.
so much going on. And he was like, I mean, you could literally compete what you just competed.
Yeah.
Like, you've been working on this for so long that you're already in a good spot. And it's a bunch of students. Like, there's nothing really big riding on it other than you're getting grant money.
Right.
So he convinced me to do it. Thank God. He kind of just keeps pushing me to take that extra step, which I'm really, really thankful
That's awesome.
of.
And
sure.
It's kind of cool that you already had like a pitch ready. I think unlike some of the students who maybe had to like practice a lot.
Exactly.
I heard, like, did you feel like you were like, I could just go out there and rinse and repeat?
I mean, it's funny you asked that because I literally just had another showcase where I had to compete it yesterday.
Yeah.
When I was up there practicing, all I could think about was, this never gets easier.
Yeah.
I've done it so many times. I mean,
I'll tell you from a speaker's perspective, because you care about it.
Exactly.
You want people to also care. I've done my keynote, 100 times, right? And like every time I go out, you're nervous, you're sweating. It's good. Like, I know the content and you know your content.
Yeah.
It's not hard, but you want people to relate to it. You want them to like it. You want them to care about it.
Yeah.
That's where you're like, it's hard. It takes a lot out of you. When
I
you're
know.
done, you're like, oh my goodness, like sweating and like, I put a lot into it. But that's like, the day it becomes easy is the day you should probably stop doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's really what I found too.
I will say too. Yeah. Oh, I will say too is that like I remember your pitch specifically. I think I even told you afterwards. I was like, they grilled you on some of the questions afterwards. The judges, like, not only like, is this feasible? Like, is this, is it legal? Like, do you have protection in place for, if somebody were to sue for this sort of thing? Like, they were kind of ruthless with you on it.
Yeah, they were.
And so, like, I was very impressed by your pitch from this specifically because you had an answer for everything. You were ready. Like, you know what I mean?
Thank
like,
you.
And had you been asked questions like that before, or was that like the first ones ever?
Those were definitely the worst I was asked. I mean, what they tell you is prepare for these questions. Right. So I would sit down and be like, okay, what are all the questions they could possibly ask me? And then I would just write it down, have those answers ready. Yeah, the questions they were asking, they were a little rough, but that's honestly better because that means they actually care about what you're doing.
I'm with you.
And they're interested too, right? Like if there's, if it's something that you have a situation where like all of it and it's feasible, it looks like it's all, legit.
Yeah.
That might also be something that just perks their interest, that they're like, maybe eventually this is something they want to get into or get behind too. Yeah. Right? So, but yeah, I thought that you handled that incredibly well. Considering
we were
that.
Like, Al and I were on the sidelines, we were like, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And I was happy to win some grant money from that as well, because that was just like the extra push. I'm like, okay, well now I have this money, so now what's next? But I was kind of in that, again, stuck, because I'm like, well, I'm going to summer, who's going to hold my hand now?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went back to that original professor, John Peterson, because he's very technical. And I said to him, well, I don't know how to code. How am I going to build out the software? Like, what am I supposed to do? And he told me to apply to the G-Beta generator program.
Okay.
And he said to me, I mean, thousands and thousands of people apply, and they only take 5 people. So he was like, that's great. Like, you should apply to this. But, like, if you don't get in the first time, don't you worry.
It's okay.
Like, don't stress about it. They'll tell you what you need next time.
Sure.
And the director actually had reached out to me, the Kenosha generator program, and said that she thinks I should apply, but I didn't want to go down to Kenosha every single day.
Right.
So I said,
who
okay.
could blame you? No.
I know.
Want to do that? Yeah.
I know. I didn't want to drive an hour. I mean, it's only an hour, but
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that every day. And then I just got on a meeting with her, and I said, well, will I have to do this? And she was telling me that a lot of it's still virtual. So it was like everything these days. But I ended up applying, and I got in, which was like, that's great. Like, thank you for the speech about like, if I'm going to be worried about getting in, but I did get in, and they, thank you. Yeah. And they were really excited because they say, you would think it's very common for people to be able to see the need and fill it. But a lot of people don't have that work experience. I mean, they see the need, but they haven't been like actually in the job doing that and trying to navigate all of these problems.
Yeah. And in your case, they haven't been in the shoes of having to like organize pills with somebody that doesn't necessarily remember them and what they're getting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I probably shouldn't have switched jobs so much when I was younger, but it's probably good I did, because I got all of this experience.
I was gonna say every job that I've had, I've picked up something from. Or
exactly,
every freelance thing that I've worked on, I've picked up something from. Doing this podcast, I've picked up a ton.
I've picked up nothing from this show, but I'm just kidding. Every experience you have, you take it to the next.
Exactly.
Thing. I think it's totally fine, and it shaped you.
And then generator. I mean, I was the youngest person in the program. There was somebody a year older than me, but they were all different companies, except I was the only one that was like a software, like a SaaS-based company.
Yeah, sure.
Like there was like a pretzel company, there was a candle company, like a consulting company, and then a box for like college students. So mine was just very different compared to everyone else.
Yeah,
because they were like already generating that revenue.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you could see, like, I mean, people love to look at graphs and numbers when it comes to this, and I know exactly, and I didn't have something to show. I'm like, I mean, I know this is a good idea. Like, this is basically like my child. Like, look at it, isn't it cute? Like,
it's exactly. Crying loudly.
Yeah, it's crying loudly right now, but I swear it's cute. It'll be good. So we started. So when I went to generator, so I started going to Kenosha. I ended up going there way more than I thought I would, because I love that, as I told you guys, I love that in-person conversations. Totally. It's just way better that way. And I mean, I really just got thrown into it again. I was super nervous, and I remember we're all leading up to something called investment swarms. But as you guys know, I was in Boston for the last month because my sister was getting married. And of course, the investor swarms were Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
In person.
No, they were online actually, which was very
okay.
good. And then the oh my God, I finished at 11 a.m. and the rehearsal was at 1 p.m.
Oh, jeez.
So my sister was like already on edge. I wasn't going to be. Yeah. So I met with 23 investors.
Oh my gosh.
Which was crazy. So when you say, did that pitch get a little bit easier? It did when I was having 15 meetings back to back. I mean,
I was just in the zone.
Yeah, I was saying this in my sleep at night.
Right, at that point.
Just going back and forth, meeting with so many. I mean, we would go into like Zoom meetings. They'd switch us between rooms like 3 at a time.
Okay.
And then at 15 minutes, you would get cut off. And you would go to the next investor and just start over and be like, hi, my name is Abby. I'm the founder of Tailored Remedy again. And you just keep doing that back and forth. It was so hard.
And by the time you're at the end of it, now you got to be like, I hope they're still even interested. Like
Exactly. And I remember, they would ask me those brutal questions. Mm-hmm. And I would take it with a grain of salt. Like I would just kind of brush it off because you have to. You're going on to the next one. You can't carry what they said.
You literally have 15 minutes, not even to get your point across.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them were just ripping you apart. They're like, well, have you thought of this, 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 and this? And they're just going through these questions. You got to be able to answer within like 10 seconds.
Jeez. Yeah,
so it's just way to a higher level than like what Brewed Ideas were.
Right.
Because you're meeting with so many people and they're asking these questions. You have like 5 minutes to pitch, 10 minutes for questions.
Sure. So the stakes are higher for it. And of course, like that's when you really got to be in and know everything for sure.
Yeah. And then my director, Bethany Larson, thank God I had her because she's one of those people that just smile all the time. Like, she's great.
Everything's fine.
She's like, don't worry about it. Like, don't stress about it. And she was kind of like what got me through all of it. And then at the end, all these people that ripped me apart wanted second meetings with me.
Of course.
Because that's how it goes. Like, if they're asking you all these deep questions, that means they're really interested.
They're curious.
Yeah.
Like, they would say to me, they would be like, well, I just don't know, like, who your market would be. And then I would say that I have connections to get into these markets, like from networking and everything, like that's not a problem. And they would just kind of go back and forth with me and I would just get stressed out, but I would just smile and just keep going like, I understand where you're coming from.
It's like their poker face versus your poker face.
I know.
Like, who wins out?
Yeah. And then after the first day, when I heard that all of these people want to talk to me again, I was like, really? After all of that, really?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, that was last week.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm in. Like,
I was gonna say, so that's where things are standing right now. Is you're in the like looking for investors phase.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I got so frustrated because a lot of these people would say I was only asking for $50,000. That's what I opened up because I would rather have $50,000 with someone that's really passionate and give X% equity.
Yeah.
Than take on like a venture capitalist, which I had like venture capitalists interested when I got to that point where I was bringing in like $10,000-$30,000 of monthly recurring revenue. And then they also offered to like, again, hold my hand through the process, try to help me get those angel investors. But there are a lot of people that mentored me that I saw in the investments forums where I was like, why are you taking so long to tell me that you're also an investor?
Yeah.
That were super interested because they were like, you got to get to the point where you know you're going to be generating a lot of revenue. So switch your mindset. That's kind of those big things. Always look to that next step. A lot of times it's really hard to do that, but you always have to be that one step ahead. Like when you're opening up like pre-seed, angel investors, all of that, you have to be thinking about not the point you're at right now, but that next point.
Right.
So like what are you going to do with that 50,000? I would have my initial MVP done right now and then start the beta launch by January 2025 and have about a 6-month grace period to fully launch by June 2025. But I didn't think, like, when I was going through this, a lot of the investors were concerned why I was asking for so little, but I know what I need for the next 3 years. Also, like, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of costs that come along the way. But when you have also like multiple different angel investors interested, it's good. But I remember a lot of these investors would say, well, why don't you just turn to your friends and family for the money?
As if we all just casually.
I know.
I got like.
Do you guys have $50,000 to give me right now?
I got like $20 on my cash app.
They're like, just go ask your parents.
That's wild.
So I did. I went home like as a joke to ask my mom, and she was like, "Are you kidding me?
That's great.
I'm not giving you $50,000."
That's wild.
It's interesting. Like the comments about like asking for too little. Like it's almost like, do they think you're valuable? I've always kind of struggled with this, asking for schools like to like pay me, because it's like how much I don't really care about the money that much, but I'm like, I obviously have value in the words I do. So there's a weird line to walk when, especially with these folks who are used to probably like high stakes stuff, and it's like, I just need this for now. We'll see what happens, and to find the right person to like be okay with that. And I could just imagine those were some interesting conversations.
They definitely were. And I mean, people that are in these positions, I remember the first day I went to Generator, we were like breaking down numbers, and all I could think was, oh my God, their concept of money is actually crazy. Like they don't invest in anything under like $500,000 because it's not beneficial for me or for them.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's a whole different world.
Exactly. It's a whole different world. And all I could think about was, oh my God, well, that'd be nice if I was just sitting on $500,000.
Yeah, you're just practical about it. How dare you be practical? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. But then when I started thinking about this a little bit more, I could understand why they don't want to just invest. I mean, they know what my company is going to be worth. They understand this, and that's why they want to work very closely with me. Yeah. So when I get to that point, they have a higher portion of the company. Like, they have more equity. And they could see that. I mean, even if I only tapped into 5% of the market, and I'm only talking about home health care, assisted living, and long-term care, we're talking $50.8 million in revenue for just 5% of it, and 1% being over $4 million.
You know, I think I got $20 on my cash app. I think I could send it. Yeah. Actually, on second thought.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, like, everything that you there's definitely a passion for this, right?
No doubt.
You can see that.
Yeah.
A ton of knowledge about the whole situation and building this and now developing this idea into a whole different concept. I am rooting for you.
Yeah.
I think you've earned 2 big fans here.
No doubt. You had them before you got here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I fully believe that you're going to do amazing things with this. So that is awesome.
Thank you.
What is kind of the immediate goal for you for, the next couple months? And I mean, you said 2025 for a possible launch.
Yeah, as long as I get that initial MVP done. So I just had the wireframes done, which was good. So I'm going out and just, now that I'm back, I'm going to go out and have like a wait list and go to places and say, okay, like these people are ready to join on board. Like, what about you? Awesome. And keep doing that.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know, tricking them into being on the wait list. Because I know it's going to be great for everybody, but everyone's so weary about changing the way that they do things.
Yeah, well, you're also entering into an industry that, like you said, big pharma is a real thing. Like people are gonna make a lot of money if they give people a lot of different drugs.
Exactly.
I can see where there would be a little hesitation there, but like there will also be plenty of people that are gonna be on the right side of things that are gonna say, hey, this is a problem in this country, and this is a problem, just in healthcare in general, and they're going to want to get involved and say, okay, well, this is somebody that is actively doing this, to help people.
Yeah,
God, what a concept,
I would say my main focus right now, though, is finding a technical co-founder, because I don't know how to code. I don't know how people figure out how to code either. I mean, that's great for anyone who can, but I'm actively looking for a technical co-founder because that would just be most beneficial for me in the future. Because right now I've just been contracting people out, but it's hard to do it by yourself. Like you need, I'm sure you two know, like you need the other side.
Yeah, you gotta get help. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think we've even done a bonus on like when to ask for help.
Exactly. It's important. You obviously are doing it. It's to think that you can do it all. Like you definitely need a village. To make some parts of what's going to be the ultimate product. So it makes sense.
So I'm sure some people are interested in where to get connected with you, where to find you, where to follow Tailored Remedy, learn a little bit more about that. Where's the best place to go and kind of get connected with you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to my website, tailoredremedy.com, but also you can just shoot me an email at abigail@tailoredremedy.com. And if anyone here that's listening is interested in even just talking about it, don't hesitate to email me. Like, I just love having these conversations. Cool. I'm super passionate, and I love when someone else like is really interested and just wants to talk. Like, you don't have to be an investor to reach out to me. I just want to have these conversations because it always benefits me and my company.
I was going to say, you're going to pull something from just about anything that you talk about.
Yeah.
Honestly, this might have been the least productive is just talking to us because we don't know, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I know who the smartest person in the room here is.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's not either one of us. So, but thank you so much for coming on the show and doing this and being part of the Brewed Fresh challenge or Brewed
Brewed Ideas. It's okay. I was going to let you
Fresh
go with
was
it.
a record label in Milwaukee for a long time, and so every time I hear Brewed Ideas,
okay.
I'm saying Brewed Fresh.
I didn't correct you last time, and I won't do it again this time.
Thanks. All right. Well, thank you for being part of that, and like I said, all the best, and excited to see where you take things for you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, in the meantime, you guys, if this is your first time listening or your 85th time listening,
welcome either way.
Yes, welcome either way. We are the Hustling Sideways podcast. We are wherever you can get your podcasts. We are also on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I think I nailed all of them.
The ones. Yes, sir.
If you also would like to be a guest on this podcast.
Yeah, look how great it would be.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It could be you. Shoot us an email. It's hustlingsideways@gmail.com. And Jim,
keep on hustling.
We will see you next week.
Peace.